navigator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stays. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school. We think we're so cool. We take it back to the past. We gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my Jaeger.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, Comcast Cable Channel 23 studios on this pretty nice.
It was a beautiful.
It was a beautiful day. Getting nicer. Weather forecast for the weekend is starting to really look good.
Well, we're going to be up and down at the Sycamore this weekend.
Ah, there you go. Right around the corner from me. And it is, of course, April 30th that we do our show number 160. And you know what April 30th means, Bob? It means that I am celebrating a birthday.
Oh, that's right. You are celebrating a birthday.
So happy birthday to me.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. I'm glad I reminded you. It's true, Bob did. Maybe if we get camera one, we can see the new addition to the set over my right-hand shoulder over there. If Mike's in there not paying attention, can't get to camera one for me to show off the nice. There it is. Ted Williams, another addition to the set. Happy birthday to me from Bob, so thank you very much, Bob. And Jolene. Well, Jolene is always bringing the gifts down. Books, we need to get a bookshelf here. I tell you, that's the next thing we got to do.
She definitely knows about Red Sox baseball for grandpa. So.
I like the sounds of that. All right, well, let's move past that whole thing. And let's officially say hello to Mr. Bob Broad Jr.
Hi, how are you, Scott?
I'm well.
I know you're having a. So what have you done so far to celebrate your birthday?
You know, the usual, worked. Got ready for the show. Same stuff. You know, well, there'll be some celebrations later. I'll find my way to having a good time at some point. Bob's show, of course, Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12, covering all things local, entertaining, and sports and otherwise. Getting pretty close, not quite Danbury Westerners time. We know the Whalers are all over and done with.
The Westerners were just about 1 month away.
Yeah, a little over a month. And who's the, what do we got? Bud Harrelson?
Buddy Harrelson will be our guest speaker.
For the celebrity breakfast. So that'll be good, and we'll be talking that up in this coming month of May.
Starting to do some interviews for Western Roundup.
And the Roundup will be back again, so we'll bring you all that stuff. Expose Cinema, Mike Toohey is our man running the director's show in there. His show is Friday nights at 9 and Wednesdays at 1. Strange Man has resurfaced. He's jumped off the ledge. He came down, he got over the Bruins losing and not making the playoffs, and he finally has resurfaced. I thought Mike McFadden might be down. He sometimes shows up after we start. Maybe he'll be here. But our production assistant extraordinaire is in there. I know he wants to run out here at any moment and wish me a happy birthday. We have to hold him back. Connor Faco in there, of course. So let's move on. We are live. 203-792-4101 is the number. 203-792-4101. is the number. As we get moving into the show, give a call if you want to wish me a happy birthday, or if you want to talk sports. We will make a mention, since we got 1 week left of promotions here, Play for Purpose, which we've been promoting for a while, May 7th through 10th. So that's next Thursday. They have their silent auction and open bar, which starts at 7 o'clock. And then the puck drops on the 72-hour game at 9 o'clock on Thursday evening in the Winter Garden Ice Arena in Ridgefield. So get on down there. It's not too late to register. If you know somebody, or if you yourself are a hockey player and you want to get involved, playforpurpose.org is where you go to find out all the information on what you need to do to get involved. And there we got the schedule of events right there. So it's going to be a great event. You know, we had some people call in last week, and we had Caden actually right in here.
It was so nice to see him here last week.
It was great. He did very well, and he was happy to be on the show talking up the big event. So get on down there, Play for Purpose, Winter Garden Ice Arena, and there he is looking dapper, like a dapper Dan last year as he was getting ready to drop the puck on the face-off to start the 72-hour game last year. So that's going to be great. Of course, the Saturday event is 11:30. They start with their bake sale, their barbecue, and they're also selling flowers since it is Mother's Day weekend.
Right.
And you can come on down there for that. They've got their pet partner service dogs are all there. And then it's the Rangers alumni game, which starts at noon. Attending right now, we have Andre Dorr, Dave Maloney, Gilles Volumery, Mark Janssens, and Tom Laidlaw are definitely going to be there. Other guys they're waiting on who they hope to be there, John Tonelli, Nick Fotui, Rod Gilbert, and Glenn Anderson. Big time name right there.
I got a good one for you. Giles Villemure happens to be a jockey.
Happens to be a jockey?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, he does the ones like El Rey Yonkers
No
Raceway, the
kidding.
Trotters.
Well, he'll be interested in
Yes.
the Kentucky Derby this weekend then,
Right.
which is going on. We'll get to that in a moment. But that's who they have. So that starts at noon. They play the New Jersey Freeze, professional hockey for disabled players, in a game at 12 to 1. And then it's open skate and meet and greet and autographs with those players from 1 to 2:30. So that's Saturday afternoon, the 9th. And then, of course, the final day is Mother's Day. And they will finish things off at some point. I'd have to get out my calculator. When does 72 hours after starting on Thursday night at 9?
I mean,
And
I'd be
sometime Sunday.
Yeah.
So they'll be wrapping up. Maybe Strangeman in there can do a quick math problem for us. Add 72 hours starting at 9 o'clock Thursday night and tell us when it ends. All right, speaking of hockey, Bob, are you ready for round 2?
I am ready for round 2, especially my Rangers.
Rangers finished things off in overtime again against the Penguins in game, Game 5, right?
Game 5.
They finished it in 5, 2-1. They won all their games 2-1.
Yes, that's a pretty good record.
I'd like to see them score more goals and
Yes.
not have to go to overtime in the last 2, but holding the Penguins to 1 goal in 4 games out of the 5 is pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's what they're going to try to do again, keep this defense going against the Capitals, not the Islanders.
I was hoping
Bob.
for the Islanders, but hey, the Capitals are a good team, and that should be a very good series.
How about
as well.
this, Bob? 4th time in the last 5 years and 5th time in the last 7, the Rangers are playing the Capitals.
Yeah.
They are really matching up quite a bit. The Rangers won the last 2 in 7 games, both times, in 2012 and 2013. So, we'll see what happens in this one. Is it going to be another long series?
Yeah.
Is it going to go 7 again? Will the Rangers get to avoid the stress that they have had the last couple times they played the Capitals? Will they have to go overtime like they had to go against the Penguins to finish things off? Or will this shutdown defense they have, which in large part is due to Lundqvist, but I got to figure it's also due to their system. And interesting enough, because we've talked about it, they are scoring a lot of goals during the regular season at least. They didn't against the Penguins, which I was surprised by. Penguins not necessarily known to be a defensive team.
Right.
And of course, the Capitals have a new coach, Barry Trotz, coming over from Nashville, and he's transformed them into a defensive team. So we'll see. But the Islanders did hold the Capitals to 1 goal in the 3 games they won.
Right.
So that bodes well, I think, for the Rangers. And we'll see. Islanders, of course, were trying to continue the life of the Nassau Coliseum. They did win a thrilling Game 6. So the Coliseum did not close in a loss, but they were not able to keep it open and bring it back for another series against the Rangers, which would have been epic, especially with the Coliseum closing. But they couldn't do it. So the Islanders, and this isn't good, Bob, because, Ovechkin and the Capitals do not have
a strange stat of the week.
Oh, we have a strange stat of the week. I'm going to give you a stat right here. The Islanders were facing a Capitals team who were 2-7 all time in Game 7s.
Wow.
And they couldn't get by them. And 2-7 actually all time at home in Game 7. So, and they couldn't do it down there in D.C. And Ovechkin is 1-4 all time in Game 7s before
Ovechkin
that.
is one of the great.
But he's not had a good history with Game 7s. But they were able to get past the Islanders. The Bruins know all too well that, he does come up big every now and then. The Bruins lost a Game 7 at home to the Capitals in 2010. So, we'll see what happens. But the Islanders would have liked to have got that done. The last time, ironically enough, that the Islanders won a playoff series, Bob, when was that? I know when it was. I had thought it was against somebody else. They beat them earlier, and then they backed it up with another win. In 1993, they shocked the Penguins and then backed it up with a win against the Capitals before losing to the Canadiens when the Canadiens won their last cup, beating the Kings in 93. So speaking of the Canadiens, they advanced. They held off Ottawa, who did push them to a 6th game, but they do advance, and they will take on the Lightning, who were forced to go 7, the only team that had to go 7. And in this series was crazy. The road team, I believe, won the first 6 games of the series as the Red Wings took the first 2 in Tampa. Tampa came back and took the next 2 in Detroit. The Red Wings went back up in game 6. Or in Game 5, in Tampa, and then the Lightning came back and got them in Detroit in Game 6, and then finally the home team won Game 7. So Tampa moves on to face the Canadiens in the other series on the other side. Out west, Chicago, Minnesota, Anaheim, Calgary. Anaheim's been sitting around. They swept. Calgary and Chicago won some pretty thrilling Game 7s or Game 6s in overtime.
Did.
Minnesota dispatched St. Louis in Game 6 as well. Strangeman announcement. I'm finally off the ledge, but going back up there after the show because the Boston Celtics lost.
Oh.
We will be moving on to the NBA in a second. We have a second announcement from Strangeman. I'm on hockey. Something here. Replacement therapy. Some sort of replacement therapy hockey. Because I'm transitioning from a Boston Bruins fan to a Minnesota Wild fan. And here's your stat of the week. End of an era for the Nassau Veterans Coliseum. 43 years, 1,786 Islanders game. 43 years. I thought they had made it past 50, but I guess only 43 years in the Coliseum. Hello, Brooklyn. Are you there? Brooklyn in the house? That's what I thought you'd say. All right, they're heading to Brooklyn. Speaking of the Celtics, and speaking of Brooklyn, Brooklyn is still alive. Why is that series taking forever? Because they've had so many days off in between.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Cavs dispatched my Celtics in 4. Tightly contested series. Game 4 actually ended up being closer than what the final... the final score ended up closer. The Celtics somehow pulled within 6 and had an open look at 3 to cut it to a one-possession game with about 40 seconds left that didn't go in. And they were getting thumped in that game. And that game got ugly. And really, this was totally ridiculous. And Kevin Love should be completely ashamed of himself for calling out Kelly Olynyk. And then the Cavs should be disgraced, really, for bringing up the thuggery on what was a completely innocuous play. We have a photo of it, which looks a lot worse there with Kelly Olynyk pulling on the arm of Kevin Love. But if you ask anybody in the NBA, Shaquille O'Neal, for one, came out and said, this is what big men do night in, night out. They wrestle for rebounds and lose balls. And Kevin Love likes to put the forearm in your chest and give the arm bar, and he's a great rebounder. And one of the reasons he is that is because he gets physical. And when you get physical, sometimes you get hurt. And he's prone to being fragile, and he gets hurt quite often. So for him to call out Kelly Olynyk because he got hurt and he dislocated his shoulder and he's out for the playoffs and he gets hurt all the time was ridiculous. He called it completely Bush League. He said it was intentional. He wanted swift and just action from the NBA. I was shocked the NBA handed Kelly Olynyk a 1-game suspension that he will serve in the first game of the year next year. But that was ridiculous. And then to see what took place after this incident, Kendrick Perkins, the former Celtic, has only played 2 minutes in the whole series. He can't even get off the bench for the Cavs. And he comes in late in the third quarter and he throws 2 arms to the face of Jay Crowder on a legal screen, knocks him to the ground. Crowder then gets up and then Perkins throws a punch at him and they don't even kick him out of the game. They give him a flagrant 1, double technical. Technical on Crowder for what? Getting thrown to the ground and getting up and then getting punched again? And then later, J.R. Smith, who you know all too well, is a total bum. He's been suspended numerous times. Suspended the last time he played against the Celtics in a playoff for taking down Jason Terry. He throws a sucker punch and knocks Crowder out. He knocked him out so bad that Crowder fell to the ground, sprained his knee because he fell and he twisted his knee going down because he was out. They kicked him out of the game. They finally kicked somebody out of the game, and it was him. But the NBA comes back, and for a repeat offender, they only gave him 2-game suspension. Yeah. And Olynyk gets 1 for a play that happens every game? Unbelievable, the NBA. Totally outrageous. But that's going to hurt the Cavs as they sit and wait. The winner of the Bulls-Bucks series, the Bulls should be done with the Bucks by now. They were up 3-0. Now they're forced to play a Game 6 as the Bucks get a buzzer beater on a great play. Backdoor cut at the buzzer. That was great in Game 4. But, that's to avoid the sweep. Then the Bulls went back home to finish in Game 5. They couldn't do it. Now they got their series and their hands full with this Bucks team who's breathing life and wanted to become the first team ever to come back from 3-0 down in the series. And meanwhile, the Cavs are sitting waiting. But Kevin Love is out for the playoffs. He will not be returning, and they'll play the first 2 games without J.R. Smith. And amazingly to me, Bob, watching these playoff games, him and Shumpert get huge minutes.
Oh, yeah.
The cast-offs from the Knicks, who gave them away for nothing.
Yeah, I know.
They got absolutely nothing out of that trade, and those guys play huge minutes now for the Cavs. But this is what you get if this is what you rely on, and this is why the Cavs will not win the championship this year, because when you got J.R. Smith, a hothead on your team, he'll probably come out of this after the 2-game suspension and miss his next 30 shots he did in the playoffs for Brick City. After he took out Jason Terry and got suspended, he didn't make a shot again for the rest of the playoffs because he's a complete psychopath, and he goes into the tank, and that's what will happen. The Nets did tie up the Hawks with the thrilling 35-point performance from D. Will in Game 4. Only problem is he hasn't scored 35 points combined in the other 4 games of the series. He did that in Game 4, but he went back to form, scoring only 5 points in Atlanta last night. The Hawks go back up 3-2, coming back to Brooklyn tomorrow night in a series that will never end because the NBA just drags these things out forever. They
love to drag out.
How many? I mean, it's the first round already. The NHL, I mean, they move it quick every other day the teams play. These guys have had so many days off. It's ridiculous. The Wizards behind the truth, Paul Pierce, who really called out Toronto, he did back it up as well as they swept the Raptors. That's the other series, and they will await the winner of Atlanta and Brooklyn. Out west, the only real good series has been San Antonio and the Clippers.
Right.
Back and forth. Spurs have now won 2 games on the road in L.A. The Clippers did get 1 out of 2 in San Antonio. They're going to have to do it again because Game 6 is in San Antonio. The Spurs looking to close it out tonight, up 3-2. And there's also been 2 blowouts in this series, surprisingly enough. The other series were not much as the Rockets just dismantled the Mavericks. Rondo was benched, and then they said he was hurt. That trade did not work out well for the Mavericks. And the Grizzlies also ended the Portland season with a 4-1 series win. Rockets also were 4-1 over the Mavs. And we know the Warriors, of course, swept the Pelicans, and they will be facing off with Memphis. All right, let's shift gears because I know last week we had baseball. We were excited.
How about the non-Oriole game or non-fan Oriole game?
How about that, Bob? That was interesting yesterday. The Red Sox were in town in Baltimore last Saturday night, and you knew things were going to get interesting when the fans, it was announced during that game Saturday night, that the fans needed to stay in their seats and not leave the building after the game as they tried to figure out how to get the fans out of the building because things all of a sudden were erupting due to protests down there in Baltimore, and things had just ratcheted up. I'm surprised they were actually able to play Sunday with no problem, maybe because it was a day game. But after Saturday night, the Red Sox were able to play Sunday. They got thumped. Maybe they didn't want to play that game. They then canceled 2 in a row with the White Sox before playing a game in front of nobody. Silent stands. They needed to play this game because scheduling-wise, it gets very tricky for the MLB to make up 3-game series. They're going to have a hard enough time making up the 2.
You could hear the crack of the bat.
I listened to some sounds of the games. and it was interesting. You know, I mean, not to say that the Westerners don't get big crowds. They get good crowds.
Right.
But when you're at high school baseball games, you're at games like the Westerners play sometimes with not that many people, you hear those sounds. So it did sound like that.
And you could hear the phone in the dugout for
them calling the bullpen.
So clearly all the way through the stadium.
So that was definitely interesting. The Orioles did win that game. But, you know, that is certainly interesting, and everybody's got their eye on what's going on in Baltimore. Your Mets, Bob, last we spoke, were winners of 11 in a row, heading into the Bronx, feeling good about themselves. They limped out of their losers of 2 of 3.
Yes.
Thankfully, Harvey ccame up big in the Saturday game. And then they went down to Florida and lost 2 out of 3 again. So now they've lost 4 out of their last 6, a 2-4 road trip after that 11-game winning streak. They're still 15-7, 4.5 up on the Braves in the NL East. How about this, Bob? Everybody in the NL East is under 500. The Nats, who are a World Series contender, supposedly are 9-13.
Yeah, that's an awful record.
Not
for
good.
them.
Other teams in the NL, Cardinals now have the best record at 14-6. Cubs still playing well at 12-8. Pirates 12-10. Charlie Morton pitching well after his injury-plagued season last year. Out west, Dodgers 13-8, and everybody else in that Western division is under 500 as well. The Padres, who made a bunch of moves in the offseason, are 11-12, so not terrible, but not over 500. Red Sox, Yankees renew their rivalry tomorrow night in Fenway. Red Sox took 2 or 3 from the Yankees early in the Bronx this year, but the Yankees have recovered from that by winning 10 of their next 13.
Yes.
They went 5-1 in road and home series with the Rays before the Rays finally won a game against the Yankees yesterday in 13.
Oof. It was a long game.
Yankees also caught a break playing in the snow in Detroit, winning 3 out of 4. In very cold, chilly temperatures that the Tigers did not win. So that is why they got the streak right now, beating up on the Rays and beating up on the Tigers. And they will now head up north to Boston. Surprise, surprise, Bob. How many times do I have to complain about this before it changes?
Come on, go for it.
The Yankees have an off day today after playing a home series, and then they'll jet on up to a weekend getaway to Fenway.
Yes.
When are they ever going to have to take a road trip where they're coming off like, you know, a 3-city trip where they end up in Boston to finish it? Like the Red Sox always have to do when they're at the end of some trip where they were out in like Minnesota, Texas, finish in New York. Yankees never, ever have to do that. Always get a nice little train ride.
I think there was only one time it happened where the Mets and Yankees had to play a doubleheader the same day. They had to go from Yankee Stadium all the way to...
That's right. That happened recently.
A-Rod
sitting on 659. This, I'm actually kind of in a sneaky way, Bob, rooting for him to hit a home run in Fenway because we know the Yankees do not want to celebrate.
No, they want
to. And I have
a
sneaky feeling if he hits one, the Red Sox might go over the top.
Yeah.
And force the Yankees to celebrate. They might actually, for once, be like, yes, A-Rod hit a home run. Put it on the board.
Yeah.
Say, Yankees, you better celebrate this, and you better pay him a $6 million bonus because you're on the hook for that with your stupid contract you gave him.
I really don't want to see him pass the say hey kid, but what are you going to do?
I know. He's going to do it at some point. Tanaka out for a month with tendonitis. We talked about it, Bob. He's got the injury he didn't have surgery on. I mean, how could he be playing well? Boston starters, Bob, are a problem. 6+ ERA, worst in the major leagues, and the bullpen is getting taxed. Second most innings pitched by any bullpen in the majors. Hanley Ramirez tied Big Papi for best month of April ever with 10 home runs. Manram had 9 previously. And they took 2 out of 3 from Toronto after their 2-4 road trip to Baltimore and Tampa Bay. Tampa is 12-10, surprisingly. I didn't think to see that happening. Baltimore 10-10, Toronto 10-12, Detroit 15-70, and the Kansas City Fighters. Not the Royals, the Royals.
Fighters.
I mean, how many times have they been in brawls this year? Every other game they're getting in fights. They're 14-7. How about the Astros? Break up the Astros, Bob.
Why?
14-7, leaders of the West. Everybody in the West is under 500. All right, let's shift gears, Bob, because we got 3 big events. One starting tonight. What is the NFL doing having their draft on the weekend of the Kentucky Derby, the Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Moneyman Mayweather fight, and the Red Sox-Yankees going on this weekend.
Why would
and
you?
round 2 of the NBA and the NHL gets
Right.
underway.
So why would you want to have a draft this
the
weekend?
NFL is
Why couldn't you wait till
ridiculous.
like June?
Come on.
When everything's done, or
And Chi-Town is draft town as they move it out of New York. Another thing the NFL is doing, trying to move it to different cities. They'll probably go to a different city next year. I think LA might be on the list. Is famous Jameis going to stay in Florida and get drafted number 1 by Tampa despite all his off-field problems? And the Titans have that number 2 pick, but there's big trade rumors flying around. Phillip Rivers could head out of San Diego maybe, and then Chargers could pick Mariota in number 2. Jets have the 6th pick, Giants 9th. Patriots, who went to the White House recently to celebrate their championship, and there they are, looking good. They picked 32nd. Big fight this weekend. Last weekend, Klitschko, Bob, defended his heavyweight championship. 9-year run with that title, 18th straight defense of the title. First time he fought in 2008 in the USA, though. So he brought it back, and the ratings were good, and that was in Madison Square Garden. 64-3, 54 KOs. Second longest tenure behind Joe Louis, who did it for 11 years, and third longest streak, 18 times in a row, behind Joe Louis, who did it 25. Who was second? Tick tock, we're running out of time. Larry Holmes did it 20 times in a row. Pacquiao or Mayweather, a fight that's been 8 years in the making. Mayweather 47-0. There's the tail of the tape. And if he goes 48-0, I believe he ties Rocky Marciano's streak, undefeated heavyweight champion. And I believe Rocky Marciano, only boxer heavyweight champion to retire undefeated. And the southpaw, Pacquiao's looking to upset him. The Derby is this weekend as we got about a minute left. It's kind of a wide open field. For the first time, there's not a huge heavy favorite. Bob Baffert's got 2 favorites, American Pharoah and Dortmund, and they got favorable positions. Pharoah is 5-2 odds at the 18th pole, at the 18th slot there, and Dortmund got the 8th. Right next to him, the 3-time winner, Calvin Borel, the jockey, is at the 30-1 favorite El Kabir in the 7th spot. Carpe Diem's another guy who's a favorite 8-1 in the 2nd spot. Some upstarts you might want to keep your eye on in the 19th and 10th. Upstart and Firing Line, a couple horses to keep your eyes on with some decent odds if you're into the Derby. I will be into the Derby for sure. I will not watch 1 minute of the draft.
Well, anyway, Scott, have a happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Bob.
And 16 days to go.
16 days to go. We will try to be back in here. We got to check our taping schedule. I don't think we'll be live before then, but we'll try to get in here to wish you well in your wedding bliss, which will be fantastic, I'm sure. All right, we'll see you next time here on The Buzz.